What's up, everyone? This is Zach from Wednesday Night Warhammer, and I'm accompanied with
Michael. I'm also here today.
Excellent. And today we are going to be talking to you about the Stormlance Task Force. And I tell you what, before we get started, don't forget to drop a little like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. We'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It really helps with our channel growth, so be sure to do that.
All right, and let's get into it. All right, so today we are going over the detachments overall, talking about what it does, why it's so cool, and why I'm excited to play it. We're going over the stratagems and the enhancements that are exclusive to this detachment. I'm going over some key units that I think are going to be really good for the list that I want to play. I'm going to go over the strategies that I'm going to deploy to hopefully claim victory, and then we're going to go over the list that I made for it. The detachment rules are that your units can advance and charge as well as fall back and charge, which personally I think is really cool. I keep a little fighting contingent in my lists, and I think that you should too, and this is really going to help them out. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about the stratagems, and I'm actually going to go ahead and let Mike pick up on this one starting out.
Well, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. First, we're going to start off with everyone's favorite Armor of Contempt. I think most people know what that stratagem is going to do. It's just going to give you your army general toughness, worsening that AP. Next, we're going to bring in a little shock assault, kind of with the theme of what some people are going to be running with your mounted infantry gaining lance on the charge. Pretty sweet, honestly. And then probably the crux of what you're going to do is the blistering fusillade. And that's going to give you assault if you don't already have it. But if you have assault, you're going to get sustained hits 1. Pretty brutal.
That's right, Mike. And for the final 3 stratagems, we do have Ride Hard, Ride Fast. Now that's a really cool 1 command point stratagem that allows your mounted units to gain -1 to hit and -1 to wound, which is pretty sweet. I think it's going to make those 4 wounds Outriders pretty tough to take down. Then I do also have Full Throttle for 2 command points, and that one is just an auto 6 advance. It's a little bit expensive if you use it in that right, but if you use it on a mounted unit, it's going to make that a 9-inch auto advance, which is pretty sweet. You're going to be moving 21 inches with bikes, and honestly, I think you can use it with land speeders as well, or rather storm speeders, since those are legends these days. Oh well. Then we have followed up in the last spot, Wind Swift Evasion, which is one of those very fun scatter type stratagems, which if an enemy moves within 9 of a unit, you can just move 6 away.
And now bringing us to the enhancements of this list. Starting off with Fury of the Storm. It's going to improve your strength and AP by 1 on a mounted unit, and by 2 if you've charged that turn. Next will be Portents of Wisdom. It's going to allow you to reroll those pesky little advance rolls.
Following up with that, we do have Fainting Withdrawal, which does mean that you are able to fall back and shoot, along with fall back and charge, as well as advance and charge for the detachment. It's a very strong one I personally like for those really good shooting units, which you're soon to see, I'm sure. Then following up in the last spot, we do have Hunter's Instincts, which is specifically for mounted units as well. It basically gives them old 9th edition outflank. So that means that you can drop in from reserves essentially a turn sooner on the clock, I suppose. So like say it's turn 2, you can drop into the enemy's deployment zone effectively, which is really good. You're still going to have to drop before turn 4, naturally. But that being said, it's going to be really helpful for getting those really pesky bike units back behind the enemy, which I am a big fan of. It might even allow for a bike character to be a really key utility piece for early game, investigate signals, or any kind of deploy teleport hummers that you might not be able to get, a bigger squad back at there that early. All right, so the key units for this detachment that I think is going to be really fun in my list are looking really cool. So I do have starting out just 2 big 10-man bricks of Hellblasters. Yeah, 2 of them. You already know how much I like those. They kill so much. I'm a big fan of those guys. Following up with those, I do have 3 6-man squads of Ravenwing Command Squads. This is a unit that I've been wanting to run since the index came out, but I didn't really have a reason. There was no detachments that really helped them. And now with these stratagems, I think that they really have a place in the game. Following up with that, of course, I have the Warlord. I'm playing Dark Angels. I have to bring the Lion. He's still just indefatigable. He's immaculate. I love the guy. So I just take him, throw him in the center, say, deal with this, please, while I have 18 bikes running at you, probably moving 21 inches at some point. It's going to be insanity. I love these guys. And then I just have very support characters to help out those Hellblaster squads really punch up. Alright, so the meat and potatoes of this list, as I've already gone over, are two 10-man Hellblaster squads. They're still just fantastic. And then I just have three 6-man Ravenwing command squads. They still have all the plasma goodness. They fight pretty hard too, essentially power swords on bikes. That's pretty sweet. With the characters, I do have an Apothecary running the Fainting Withdrawal enhancement, as well as the Supreme Grandmaster Azrael going with the Hellblaster squad. That's my regular that I typically run. Makes them very good with the 4-up invulnerable save and the sustained hits 1. Then I do have a chaplain on bike to accompany one of my command squads. The 12-inch devastating wounds, it's just as good as ever, honestly. Damage 1, devastating wounds, is immaculate. Damage 2, I could almost say is even better. Then I do have a librarian giving yet another Hellblaster squad that 4-up invuln to kind of match Azrael there. And then if later on we do have a stratagem that we'll talk about that's going to make them just as strong. Then I do have the Lion naturally. We've already gone over this. I'm not gonna belabor the point. So Mike, with everything here, there's not a whole lot of units. How do you think we're gonna see success playing this list?
Well, thanks for asking, Zach. As you can see here, we clearly have a very elite army. And with that, you might be wondering, how am I going to score points with that? Well, it's going to start with your secondaries. I would strongly consider taking fixed, those being engage on all fronts and behind enemy lines. Start by taking your bikes on your flanks, on the side, to score all those. And then you're going to also, I would consider putting your chaplain bike squad with the Hunter's Instincts in your strategic reserves. That way you could pop them in your opponent's deployment zone if they make a mistake, and depending on deployment and mission, turn 2, you can score behind enemy lines right off the bat. Following up on that, you have your Lion and your two 10-man Hellblasters. That's what you're going to want to roll up to the middle of the board, stand there and say, kill me or I kill you.
That's absolutely right, Mike. These command squads going around the corners, trying to crowd the deployment zone of the enemy, trying to score those points quick and early, I feel like is going to really help with playing this list. Also, with these Hellblasters being able to advance and shoot already, having assault, they also have heavy, so they really want to hold down those lanes to really support the Lion when he's pushing forward, as well as giving him his 12-inch lone op within 3 of those guys. Now, we do have the stratagem Blitzing Fusillade, which we have already gone over, and that gives weapons assault. But if those weapons already have assault, then they gain sustained hits 1. Now, what you can probably see from that is that I have Hellblaster squads with heavy and assault. One of those squads already has sustained hits 1 with Azrael. That means that I can give that same benefits to the Hellblaster squad with the Librarian, so they both get a 4-up invuln and a sustained hits 1, making them profoundly deadlier than just a regular Hellblaster squad. And another thing about that as well is that the Apothecary with the Azrael squad is going to be a little bit slipperier too. So one part of this detachment is fallback and charge. That's going to actually give the Azrael squad fallback and shoot as well. Because I really want to protect that squad, there is the Apothecary attached to it, and that's going to make them much harder to lock down.
And getting back to the flavor of the detachment, I got a couple more stratagems I'd like to discuss regarding your bikes. Starting off with Shock Assault, it's going to give your mounted units re-rolling charges and the Lance ability. So your non-chaplain units will basically count as having a chaplain in there. Or if you're going into a -1 to wound type unit such as Lich Guard, you're still going to be +1 to wound against that target. And say turn 1 happens and you can't get that auto 9-inch advance off and your bikes are a little left out. That's where your little ride hard, ride fast is going to come in, making them -1 to hit and wound, giving them that durability that they so desperately need.
And we want to thank you guys again for watching. That's going to wrap up our Stormlance task force. If you want to see any more content just like this, you be sure to drop a like, subscribe, go ahead and give us a follow on Twitch even. And I tell you what, if you have any other cool ideas or want to see any other detachments, you feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll give that a look.
And shout out to our patrons. Thank you for your support. And if you're looking for commission painting or some awesome dice, please check out our sponsors down in the description. Thank you guys, and remember, is it Wednesday yet?